All right, folks, welcome to Procreate. So it's time to get into making a texture brush. Now, earlier in the class, we made a lining brush, and so I want to show you how to make a really cool textured style brush to help out in our next section, because what we're going to be doing, we're going to be making, actually, a back of a t-shirt type of look. So we're going to be making a stipple brush, and we're going to be making a texture brush, okay? So the texture brush that I'm going to use the texture that I shot on photo. I've included the photo. So when I make my textures, I like to make them square. So let's come up and make this 1920 by 1920 and hit create. So you have a square canvas. Now, you can go out and get a texture from anywhere. You can take a picture from the back of your couch, you could take a picture of concrete, you could take a picture of brick. There's a ton of different textures that you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to import the photo that I took. So I'm going to insert a photo. And I've got this image right here of concrete. Now, when you do textures, it's extremely important that you grab a piece that appears to be seamless. Now, what do I mean by seamless? That means that if this was a square, I couldn't tell the left of the square from the right of the square, because if I ran over that seam, it would just look like the same level. So you see down along here, I hope this translates at home, that I have some darker areas here. What I want to do is I want to come in, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn off transformation so I can shrink this down a little bit. And I want to find a piece of this concrete that looks to be seamless. You see how that between the lights and the darks, this area looks pretty good. If I moved it up to here, you see the dark that's created right here? That doesn't look really good. So you want to find a good texture that doesn't have an extreme amount of lights or darks. And this would be a good seamless style texture. We still have the detail of the grain. Now we have to make it black and white. To do that, we're going to use our old friend, the adjustment layer. And I'm going to come into the hue, saturation, and brightness, and I'm going to desaturate it. Now, this is one of those things you can get as crazy as you want with it. If you want more dynamics, you come up to the adjustment layer, you go to the curves adjustment. Now watch this. If I'm in gamma, I can increase the brights and I can darken the darks to get a more dynamic white and dark move here. Okay. Now, this is totally a personal preference. I like the traditional S-curve. I like a lot more contrast on my shaders. If you don't have to use it. If you're happy with it, click off the adjustment layer. And the last thing that you could do if you want, this is going to give us a real gritty, grainy style texture. I like in mine to put just a little bit of Gaussian blur on it. You see, you don't want a lot, but maybe just a little bit, maybe like 3% or so. Just enough to be dangerous. All right, once you're good there, click off the adjustment. So this is what's called cultivating your texture. Once you've cultivated your texture, you're going to want to go in to the wrench, you're going to share, and you're going to put this down as a JPEG. And let's go ahead and save it to an image. And ta-da, there you go. All right, let's make the brush. Go to Gallery, bring up any sort of group you want, right? We're just going to try your brush out. Come over to your brush. Let's go to the area what we've been working with. So I'm going to come over here to the Procreate course brush set. And you probably have more brushes in here than I do now. Shows you what order I load videos in. Click on the plus. And now the shape. When you do texture brushes, edit, import from the source library, I always do a soft brush. I don't like a hard edge on it. And you hit done, and you hit done. And now we're going to add in our grain. This is where your grain goes. Import from a file. Now let's go ahead, find a location here. Go to iPad. Import a photo. Hey, there we go. How about that, huh? Helps when I got my head out of my backside. And there is your grain source. And done. All right, and hit done. Make sure it takes. Now you have a good grain source. Now you can scroll this up, kind of like that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stroke path. I don't like a lot of spacing in mine, so I'm going to trick the spacing down. And then I still like some taper in mine. So if you don't have to use it. And when we go to properties, I like my brushes to be a little bit smaller. So when I try this, I'm going to want to turn up a little bit on the size as it relates to the pressure. So let's go ahead and go to dynamics, speed, jitter. I want it to be pressure related. Crank up the size. So now, yeah, I think that that's kind of cool. Okay. Yep, that's really cool. All right. So I think that we're pretty good there. Stroke path. I'm going to keep that where it is. Maybe I'll do a little bit of jitter. Yeah, just a little bit. I think that that's good. All right. So I'm actually quite happy with this. Let's go ahead and hit done. And now let's just try it out. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my inking pen. And you don't have to do this at home. I'm going to grab my modified studio pen. I'm just going to create a very simple sphere, just like that, maybe a balloon. And now I'm going to add in a multiply layer. And we're going to drop down a little bit in terms of the dark. That looks pretty good. And now we're going to try out this new pen. Now, I'm not going to worry too much about making sure that my layers are right and all that jazz. I might create a clipping mask. Let's go ahead and clip to the below. All right. So let's go ahead and shrink down the opacity just a little. Bring that size up. Okay, now what I want to probably do with the size, see how I've got, it's not really giving me the size that I want. I'm going to come back into here, and I want a bigger size. Maximum size, there we go. All right, done. That looks a lot better. So that's a really nice kind of soft shader. I'm actually quite happy with that. If I come back over to here, let's go ahead and add a layer. We're going to go ahead and we'll make it a screen layer. We go somewhat in here. Let's go ahead and crank that up a little bit. Overall, I'm happy with that. So that's a little bit on how to create a shading brush. You cultivated it from a texture. You used a soft shape from the shape library, and we're going to be using this in our project for the elephant to do the t-shirt. All right, let's go ahead and call it on this one. This is how to make a texture brush in Procreate.